Marc here, co-founder of Tracify, and in today's video I want to speak with you about finding the ideal channel mix. So finding the ideal spendings per channel and understanding the dynamics between the channels and help you steer your marketing budget efficiently. So in order to find the right channel mix, I would not recommend you to simply calculate a ROAS per channel and then saying, hey, we need on Meta 3, on Google also 3, and on influencers also 3. And if we get this, we can scale. Because it needs to be way more dynamic, and the dynamics between the channels is different. Influencer and Meta are push channels, Google is a pull channel, so they're also more bottom of funnel. That's why you should have different targets for this. And I like to use I call this top-down strategy or tactic. And in this top-down strategy and tactic, I make budget decisions a lot of time based on the trends of a certain KPI. For example, if I look at the ad spend, in this case, this is all dummy data, the ad spend went up, the store revenue went down. So obviously then the CPO goes up, MER goes down, and customer acquisition cost goes up. For example, I say I want 30 euros of customer acquisition cost. This is my target. So obviously I'm overspending currently. This is important. So the first decision I make is, hey, do I overspend or underspend in marketing currently? And this tells me, hey, I'm overspending currently. So I want 30 euros, so there is inefficiency. And then I look up. So we scaled marketing budget by 5% and CAC increased by 20%. Okay, we increased the budget somewhere where it was not efficient anymore. And then I look at the channels. And then I double check. Okay, we scaled the ad spend by 7% here. We scaled the ad spend by 0.35. Okay, this has probably nothing to do. So we are not overspending on Google probably. We increased budget on TikTok by 6%, on Pinterest by 4%, and influencer by 5%. That does not need to make sense because this is dummy data. This would in reality look a bit different, but what you would see is, for example, here, okay, we increased budget on the push channels, on Meta, on TikTok, and on Pinterest and influencer. Somewhere we brought, for example, only the CAC down on TikTok by 2%. So probably this is the less efficient one. We scaled it by 6% and it went down by 2%. Here we scaled it by 7%, it went down by 8%, which is good. So basically 4%, 7%, 5%, 5%, 7%. So probably we are overspending currently on TikTok. When we have 30 euros in CAC, and that's also how I do it. When we have 30 euros in CAC, I try to understand, okay, what's the ROAS, the relative ROAS of the channel that correlates and has a causation with that channel ROAS. So I really try to understand, okay, for example, maybe we need on Meta ROAS of 2.3. We need on Google ROAS of 5.6. So the channels don't have the same ROAS targets. That's very, very important. And TikTok maybe has even a more discovery function than Meta. So maybe we only need a ROAS of 2.2 on TikTok. Pinterest maybe same, and influencer marketing gets more and more expensive. Maybe that's why, and we cannot scale it properly. That's why we need a ROAS of, I don't know, 3 there, for example. So this is how I try to understand the dynamics between the channels, and I always double check, okay, top customer acquisition cost is currently up, so we want to scale down. Where are we suffering efficiency? And then I look at the channels, and then I look at the attribution of the channels. And then, for example, for 2 days or 3 days, I say, okay, I will downscale TikTok now. Let's see what happens. If the customer acquisition cost only goes down like 5%, that's bad, because if we downscale the TikTok ads by 30%, 40% here, and it goes only down by 5%, the customer acquisition, we know the efficiency and for example, the new customer revenue also goes down heavily. I know, okay, the inefficiency comes from somewhere else. So I really try to understand always, okay, what I'm like adjusting budget within the channel, what happens to the ROAS relatively, and then I look absolutely what happens with the customer acquisition cost. And that's how I find the right channel mix. And what's really important here are the trends. So, because everything is relative. If we scale up the ad spend by 5%, 20% increase in customer acquisition cost is very bad, because it means that this 5% lead to 20%. We paid 5% more in ad spend and we received 20% higher customer acquisition cost. That's bad. So if we would scale 5% and the customer acquisition cost would only go up like 0.5%, I would say, okay, this is negative economies of scale. But this is inefficient spending. And that's what we have to double check here and see, okay, where did we suffer efficiency? And then you look at the channels and then you say, okay, for the next 2 days, we descale Meta by 30% or by 20% or TikTok or Pinterest or whoever. And we look at the customer acquisition cost and try to find out, okay, what's happening with it and how is it relatively improving or getting worse? And if I then say, okay, I want to descale, and we go again top down, if we want to descale Meta, I would go into the Meta Ads Manager and look at the campaigns that have the worst efficiency based on my target ROAS, which would be maybe 2.3, 2.4. And I would say, okay, where do I want to decrease that money based on the campaigns, the ad sets, and the ads? And that's how I really always calibrate with the top-down strategy. But it's very, very important to not look isolated on the entire multi-channel dynamics and the context. And this goes obviously the easiest way with Tracify, as you can see here. We provide you all information and you don't have to look at any sheets or use like bad tracking data from Meta. So you can directly look everything up here and make your ideal channel mix very efficient and reliable and fast in the Ads Manager and in the Tracify dashboard. If you want to test this yourself, book a free demo with one of our tracking and attribution experts and test it risk-free. And probably you will see an uplift of easily 20-30% in efficiency that will give you new room to scale.